All right.
Yeah, no, I don't mind because the fact, simply the fact you asked me. If folks ask me, then I don't mind.
Okay. So we were going back to whether or not, or why you didn't testify last time.
Right. So I didn't testify because Agent Bryant was in contact with me throughout the whole kind of. I guess once they had arrested Joe, he was kind of in contact with me and trying to get information. And I don't know that the information maybe I had was too beneficial to Joe or not beneficial enough for them. But, he said, look, you're either going to be on Team Joe or Team Government. And, I mean, if that's not a veiled threat,
Right.
it's not just a flat-out threat, then I simply do not know what is. And, I have enough problems. I have, Travis and losing everything and having to relocate. And at that point, I'd lost everything. And, I mean, how can the government how is it legal for them to intimidate potential witnesses?
Yeah, it seems to me
it
would be Team Truth or Team Truth.
Right.
The facts are where they are. Whether they fall on one side or the other, that doesn't change the fact that they should be facts.
I just regret that I couldn't get in front of a jury on the animal counts because, here in Oklahoma and especially down in the South, it's not uncommon. I've had to do it as a young boy, as a teenager myself, when the family dog gets too sick or, it's time for the, family dog to be put down, the money go to the vet, and you don't want to take your animal to the vet where they're, already scared because animals, my animal, at least my dog, every time we drive by the vet, he starts shaking like a leaf. You don't want to take, people don't want to, us folks, we don't want to take them to a place they're afraid of to kill them, to put them down. So it is not, I would say not uncommon would be a massive understatement as to how common simply taking the family animal out in the backyard and taking a rifle and, putting them out humanely and burying them in the backyard. That's our culture. That's and it's not just Oklahoma. I've got friends in Ohio. I got friends in South Carolina. I got friends in Georgia. I got friends all across the country naturally. And I mean, everyone was like, yeah, I mean, I've had to do that. So, really, I mean, yeah, the murder for hire charges are bogus. It's a setup. This country used to be illegal for I thought, for entrapment. And yet they still entrap Joe by, James Garrettson working in concert with the FBI and in concert with Jeff Lowe in order to get a guy to wear a wire who works for the FBI and, talking them into doing it. And I think it's outrageous.
So let's back up. Why wouldn't Joe hire Alan to kill Carol Baskin?
Look, Joe did not trust Alan, period. If there was ever anything like out of state, like, going up and picking up a new animal, he would usually send him along with staff because those were the two people he really trusted the least, and he just wanted them off the park. And so a lot of times, he would get sent out with this stuff, and, he did not trust Alan because it was perfectly clear. I mean, there was no secret about it. Jeff Lowe brought Alan to the park. Alan Glover is Jeff Lowe's right-hand man. And Alan Glover would have done whatever Jeff Lowe told him to do. And Joe knew that. And so Joe did not trust him. So I don't even find it. I just can't accept. And yeah, I have said some horrible things about Joe. And yes, a lot of them are true. He is not a great guy, but he does not deserve to be sitting in prison under false imprisonment. No one does.
Right.
I would be a hypocrite sitting here advocating for all nonviolent drug offenders to get out, and at the same time advocate that someone like Joe, who's also, a nonviolent offender, if he even had an offense,
So let me play devil's advocate. What was the money for that Allen contends he was given by Joe?
So Allen had been waiting for for several months to get back pay. He had just been approved for disability, and he was going to get himself a several $1,000 check for back pay on disability. And the understanding, because I worked in the office, so, Joe would come up, and I wasn't the secretary. I didn't deal with money at all, but he'd go up to Brenda, the secretary, and talk all the time. And, he trusted all of us. And he was just like, Brenda Verga, she's the one that would really be able to attest to this. I don't know if you've spoken to her. She's even willing to speak. But she's the one that handled it. And basically, Joe gave Allen an advance on what his disability check was going to be in order to get him out of the park and move him to South Carolina for good.
Right.
And that was what the money was for. It was only later on, once Joe was arrested, they said, oh no, Alan Glover was paid money by Joe Exotic to kill Carol Baskins. And I knew that was bullshit. I knew there was something fishy right away. Because you got to trust someone to hand them over money and say, hey, go kill this person. You don't just hand money over to the person that you trust the least on your facility to go do something like this. It's absurd. I don't understand how the jury and the judge and the prosecutors couldn't see through that, or how his previous lawyers did not jump on that, pick up on that. It seems like he did not get fair representation in his court.
How much communication did you have with Agent Bryant?
Probably 7 or 8 different phone calls, maybe even less than that, maybe 5. I think once it became clear that, I was the campaign manager, so I was in the gift shop office almost all the time. Towards the end before Joe left, he did have me as his photographer as well as his campaign manager, so there's not really a lot I can attest to. There's the big hoo-ha about the graveyard in the back, and I knew about that. But, there's nothing. You're allowed to bury your animal, surely, and so I think that he kind of felt like, maybe the reason he told me you're the team government or Team Joe is because he felt like maybe I could help Joe, and maybe he thought I would help Joe more than help them,
Going back to the Allen stuff, there was some talk that Joe helped Allen get a driver's license or an ID. Do you know anything about that?
It wouldn't have been Joe. It would have been Brenda Verga.
Okay.
Joe didn't do anything on his own, sir, because excuse me, because that bitch got that judgment against him. This is, I realize that this is not legal, but I'm a libertarian, so I don't care. But, he would have, the car would be in so-and-so's name. The insurance would be in so-and-so's name. The phone would be in this name. That way, there was no income to show. So he had Brenda Verga do everything. Have y'all not been able to get a hold of her? Or is she not willing to testify? Or
we're still trying to figure that out, and also some people.
She could, sir, not to cut you off,
no, go
but
ahead.
honestly, if she was to get on the stand and be truthful, she alone might be able to get Joe out. Yeah. I'm telling you, she handled all the money. She handled everything with Allen. And I play devil's advocate all the time, so sure there might be a chance that, maybe he really did tell Brenda to give Allen a couple thousand to go kill Carol. That's a possibility, but I'm an agnostic in my religion, so I'm agnostic in all things. So, I try to keep an open mind, but that Brenda Verga, that right there, do
you have a good number for her?
I sure don't.
Okay.
I sure don't.
I can get it.
But I'm telling you, she handled all the money, sir. all the money, and she would be able to tell you where it went. I mean, if she's willing to talk. But I mean, I haven't seen Tiger Kings at all. Like, I don't even know why I'm famous or semi-famous. I've just been taking, answering people's questions when I go online and do, podcasts and stuff. So I don't even know if she was in it, but my impression before it released was she was not going to be involved in anything Joe Exotic going forward.
Okay, we'll run that down. Anything else you could think that stands out that we need to look at?
Well,
I mean, there's so much talk about whether it was sex trafficking or the care card or, some of the dealings that were going on between James Allen, really James and Jeff, and that kind of...
Yeah, I can say this about Joe, and I've said it publicly, and I don't remember how many times. I never seen Joe do a drug. Like, he did not do drugs. He did not trade in drugs. I mean, we were in the limo together, sometimes 10 hours a day, traveling all across Oklahoma, campaigning. And if he was a coke addict or if he was a meth addict, he would have had to have pulled some out and got him a hit. And that never happened, sir. He was not on drugs. The only thing that he was doing is he had some marijuana gummies that we were getting from Colorado for him at the time for his health condition, and he barely even ate those. But that was all he did. As far as sex trafficking, that's probably, if there's any allegations of sex trafficking, that's Jeff Lowe right there.
Right, that's what I meant.
I'm telling you, sir. Yeah. I'm telling you, sir. I was with Joe Exotic. I was right next to him, by his side, within probably 10 feet of him at all times for a year and a half, 12 to 15 hours a day, 6 days a week. And I'm telling you, none of it, I would have known. I am a very, not to be braggadocious, but I'm a very intelligent person, and I pay attention to stuff. I'm the one that first pointed out and caught that there was some kind of listening device on top of the radio receiver. I told Joe, I said, Joe, I don't want to freak you out, but let's step over here. And we stepped over to the side, and I said, Joe, when we go back over there, don't say anything in case it's a listening and radio transmitting device. But you've got it above this park is bugged. And, so, I mean, I think that was like right at the end. But, I mean, I still to this day don't know who was bugging them.
Right.
But, I mean, these people, I say that to say that if he was being listened to, and if there was any sex trafficking or anything below board, it would have already been come to light.
Yeah.
He was being spied on. Like I said, it could have been Carroll, could have been the sheriff's department, could have been the feds.
Right.
Could have been Jeff Lowe. But regardless, he was being listened to and spied on. And no. Like, Joe did like young boys, young men. And that's who he was attracted to, is the younger gay men.
Yeah.
But there was no sex trafficking whatsoever. And anyone that says Joe Exotic was involved in sex trafficking is a liar.
Yeah.
And you can quote me on that.
Well, there was some question. A lot of what I've been hearing is that, there was some scams going on between Jeff Lowe and James, and Joe was getting close to knowing, and Jeff threatened Joe, if you keep looking at this or keep talking about this, we're going to bring you down.
Well, and like I said, since I haven't watched Tiger King and I didn't go to all the trials and I haven't been keeping up as much, maybe this is already known, but so what happened is let me see if I can remember his name, Matt Garrison, the cop that was our limo driver from Elmore City, Oklahoma. I think his name was Matt Garrison. And he was Joe's security guard. He's also a part-time police officer, and he would be our limo driver. And Joe told him everything. And Joe trusted him probably more than he trusted me. I mean, he trusted him completely. He told him everything. Joe had asked Mr. Garrison, not James Garrison, but a separate one, to open an investigation into Jeff Lowe. And instead of, and it was, I can't remember what it was related to. It was either drugs or sex, some kind of sex trafficking. It was one of the two. And instead of, I hate to keep calling him Mr. Garrison if that's not his name. Am I right? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Okay, so instead of Mr. Garrison, doing that, he turned around immediately and told Jeff Lowe that Joe was wanting to get him investigated, and that's when Jeff started to, well, no other word for it, retaliate. And I mean, look, Jeff Lowe's a con artist. I mean, they're masters of manipulation, and even the most intelligent among us are susceptible to narcissists. I mean, I just got out of a 2-year abusive relationship a week ago, and I'm a pretty damn smart guy, but I wasn't smart enough to leave him.
That's the hard part for people. I mean, you get stuck in that rut.
It's just I just said that just not to bring myself up, just to show, even the folks who have their eyes open the widest, or the most intelligent, or, the most up to date, even they can be fooled by a narcissist.
Right.
And that's what Jeff Lowe is.
Any questions, Amy? Well, I appreciate it. I may be reaching back out, but I do
have a question for you. What was the what was the substance of your conversation with the FBI agent that kind of led him to say you're either Team Tiger or Team Joe or Team Government?
He had asked if I had planned on testifying. And I was kind of and he was like, I'd really rather not testify, but I feel like I need to because I feel like Joe is going to be underrepresented, or I can't. It's been so long and I've had such trauma go through, but I think he just flat out asked me a question if I'd be willing to testify, and I was kind of on the fence, and he said, "Well, you're either on Team Joe or Team Government." And that's why I told him I'd just rather not testify for either and just be left alone. Had I known that every single one of Joe's friends were going to betray him, and a lot of these people who had their hands just deeper in the cookie jar than Joe did, so to speak, and still are walking free, I never in a million years would have guessed that so many people I knew, yeah, he's a shitty person personally, but no one deserves what Joe Exotic's going through right now. But I would hate I would have to think about that, but I don't even know if, I have PTSD, and so my memory's just not as good as it used to be. But the way I had originally got contact with him is Lisa Sparks had contacted me and said, "Hey, I just got a knock on the door from the FBI," and told me his name, and she said that he had asked where I lived and wanted to come to me. Said he was coming to me next. And I said, "Well, give me his phone number because I'm going to call him because if the Federal Bureau of Investigation comes knocking at my door, it's going to send me into a major episode, because I don't trust the justice system has done me wrong one too many times. I just don't trust the justice system. I don't trust the prosecutors. I don't trust the judges. I don't trust the cops." Had I known that he was going to be betrayed by everyone, I would have probably stood up and helped. But that's in the past. But going forward, any opportunity that I have, I know that he had got a message to me through Chris Hansen asking to kind of get his petition out there. I don't really have a way of getting a hold of Joe. I wish I could talk to him, and give him some advice. But unfortunately, this petition is nothing.
Right.
he's going to have to get, y'all are the lawyers, but, I'm the political guy, right? But, President Joe Biden will not pardon Joe Exotic. And the fact that when Joe learned that he did not receive the pardon, and started, saying, well, I guess I was too gay, and kind of turned on Trump, Trump, they'll remember that,
They will.
So
I'm not a fan of Team Tiger, and the way they did all of it. And so there's an order to this process, and I get being antsy and every day in jail is a day in jail that you shouldn't be in jail, but right. There was, like, I've read that pardon and it's garbage. There's an order, and we're trying to do the right order. But online petitions, all that stuff, it may make people feel good, and who knows in this world, it may get the attention, of somebody, particularly if somebody like Trump, who could do something on a whim. Biden's not going to do something on a whim.
Right.
But the main thing we need is to assemble this from a standpoint of, was this a government conspiracy? Was this a level of a malicious prosecution, despite some of the facts? Was this a concerted effort to just bring Joe down, not necessarily by any means or by any legal cost, not necessarily the truth? And then we have something.
Right.
So, who was Lisa Sparks?
And she was, I think she was, I'm told she's also in the show. But she's a victim's right advocate. She's the one that Joe gave in the possession his cell phone, which she and hard drive, USB drives, which she then turned over to Agent Bryant.
Okay.
So she was another friend that betrayed Joe. And I wouldn't even say betray, because the way that the feds did this and executed this, they really was like, especially if they did anything to others like they did to me, would say, you're either Team Joe or team government. I don't know if I'm going to, what kind of trouble I'm going to get in with the feds for doing this, but I think he deserves some kind of hearing. So is there any hope on the horizon of him getting something going on?
We believe so. There's two aspects to this. There's the Rule 33 based upon collusion and or new evidence, and then there's the ineffective assistance of counsel based upon the presentation of past evidence. So I feel, we're going to be heard. Is it going to fall in the same years? Maybe, but we're going to try to get a new judge too. There's no easy, quick path, but I certainly believe that there is, there is a way, and it's going to take some of Joe's enemies to admit some level of what they did. James Garrison's been all over TV, all over interviews, saying Joe was wronged, but then Joe will spout off on social media with email from jail, and then he'll piss everybody off, and they're like, "Oh, fuck Joe." And I get why everybody's doing what they're doing, but at the end of the day, we just want to know the truth. And so,
right.
If James has a story.
Yeah, and I always add the addendum, and I've said from the beginning, I've said from the beginning is that he deserves clemency. And I've had Team Tiger come after me the first time my partner abused me and was paying people in my apartment complex to do interviews to get dirt on me, tried to get my ex-fiance to do an interview for $2,000. And so, I get it, because I've been there, and I got mad at Joe too. But this Team Tiger thing, man, if they keep coming after me, I'm not going to lie. They got to stop.
Are you referring to Tiger
will,
King, like the Eric Good and Rebecca?
No, I'm talking about Eric Love.
Are you really?
Yes, I don't know if he's still snooping around. This was about 8 months ago. But I just want to be left alone. I've been through enough, and it's hard enough to deal with the domestic abuse without this man going around and trying to make it worse.
So Eric Love did that?
Yeah.
Jesus, man.
So there was a bit that I was mad at Joe too, and unfortunately it happened right before Eric Good and I did an interview, and I was pretty mad, and I didn't lie, but I told the truth that maybe I would have on an incident, nothing that'll get him in legal trouble, but on more to his character, that had Eric Love not literally just that week or before done that, I wouldn't have been mad at Joe. But these people, this Team Tiger, they are screwing him over, sir.
Yeah, they are.
The helicopters, the limos. You're a lawyer. You're smarter than I am, so you probably already realized that the fact they had the glam team in the limo parked there all day, all the Trump loyalists who've been with him since 2015 and even before, since the 90s, and had their own people they wanted pardoned, saw all that coverage, heard the rumor that he was going to get pardoned, and called into the White House and said, hey, we've donated millions, hundreds of millions of dollars to help you stay in office and get in office. We've had your back the whole time. We want our guy pardoned, not this guy. Right. And I guarantee you, sir, that is what happened. Wow. Otherwise, Joe Exotic would be out of jail right now. I cannot express to you how much hate I have for Eric Love and his team.
I get it. Eric has been taken off of the case. Unfortunately, Fran's still giving him some advice, but my agreement with Joe is I'm head of criminal and civil, and I need to be able to do what I need to do it the right way, and see if we can get you out of jail. So you're not going to have any of that shit with me.
Right. Well, and I was thinking, if anything, since a lot of the stuff, people ask me a question, I answer it. Yeah. It's just the kind of person I am. I just answer just truthfully. I just answer. Unless it's a cop and they're asking if I've been drinking. But I don't drink, but I'll just use it as a metaphor. But anyways, I've said I've revealed some awful truths about Joe, like on my interviews and stuff. But that does it not help that someone who could be perceived as maybe even a detractor of Joe, someone who's speaking negatively about Joe and his personal issues, and yet at the same time is saying, hey, wait, at the same time, he does not deserve to be in jail. Does that help him?
I think so. I mean, truth is complicated. Truth is truth. But here, as I've tried to tell him, let's just shut up for a bit and let me talk to James Garrettson or his ex-girlfriend or whoever, because they're the ones that have the firsthand information that could get you free. Well, fuck them. Well, all right, then stay in jail. Because people that are having second thoughts or realizing that what happened to Joe wasn't right are going to be of different political, size, shapes, colors, allies, enemies,
Sure.
Whoever knows the truth, we need the truth. I don't care where it comes from. So.
Right. Okay. Well, yeah. And next time you talk to Joe, you just let him know. I know you have to be careful what you say since everybody's watching, but right. Maybe you'll give him some encouragement that I'm on board and that we've spoken. And, I don't know how much help I can be, but whatever help I can be, I will be, as long as it's not involved with Eric Love.
Right.
I will not deal with Eric Love, and if he comes after me, then I can't promise that. I mean, I have a lot of mental health issues, and one of my things is when someone attacks me, I tend to attack about 100,000 times worse back, I tend to go for the jugular when they just sucker punch me or something.
Yeah, he might deserve it.
Well, sometimes in some cases they have, but that it's a personality flaw of mine, and Joe actually has the same thing. That's why Joe was like a father to me. So, and I still can. He treated me better than my biological daddy ever did. And so I always looked up to Joe as a father figure, and I'm worried about his health, and I hope we can get him some help. And are they giving him his infusions at least?
It's slow going, but he got something last week.
Because I used to sit up there with him in them and sit next to him as he was getting them done, and I know how much they helped him and how weak and just all over weak and in pain he was in when he was late for his infusions. Yeah, so I'm just worried.
That's you talk about cruel and unusual punishment,
Yeah. I just don't know how to explain to him that as far as this petition goes, that, I want to tell him, sure, let me share it, but I'm not going to share it because, this isn't going to do anything, unfortunately.
Yeah. I get it.
The political route's been expended on January 21st, 2021. His political route expended. From here, all he has is the truth, and the truth will set him free. Get people like Brenda Verga on the stand, or at least on your side where she's talking. Get people like that on George Torres. Not before we hung up. That is one more thing I need to ask you. I'm glad that you called when you did. So George Torres, you know who he is. He worked as a cashier in the gift shop.
I've heard the name, but not in any detail other than he worked for Joe.
Yeah. So he was there. He was working up there with Day Travis died. He worked for Joe for years. He's also someone that knows everything about Joe. But I've been doing Zoom calls lately just to kind of, deal with my loss of my granny and, recovering from domestic abuse. And he jumped on, and, I was kind of like just shooting the shit with him, not really revealing anything. But he did reveal to me he's still working for Jeff Lowe. And that they have that facility and all they do is take care of the animals and they don't display them to the public. So my question to you is, since I guess I have sort of an indirect fly like close to the wall of Jeff Lowe, is there anything I can do on that front as far as weeding out information? I can be very subtle. I mean, I am a politician, so.
Let me think about that. Very well met.
Yeah. And he's actually after me for my, He wants to, I don't want to get too dirty, but he wants me. And I don't want him at all. But I mean, like I said, I'm a politician, so, and I don't lie. So, I'm going to just be upfront with you that, if it's necessary and if there's anything any type of nugget that I can draw out of them, I guarantee you I can draw it out. I just need to know what line of questioning, so to speak, or what nuggets you'll need or even would need, or anything that would help.
Let me think about it.
And then also, I got this fake truth going on with Carol Baskin, because it was revealed to me that he was she called me to give her condolences about Travis and everything after the documentary, and I thought she was just being a nice lady, and she never asked about Joe, she never asked about the case, asked about evidence or anything. Every time she called me on Facebook Messenger, she was just like, "How are you holding up? Are you okay?" So she kind of got me in this false sense of security, and I ended up, finding out that she was actually recording all those calls and attempting to draw out information out of me. the whole time. So I confronted her publicly on her page on social media. I told her that I believed her, but I don't believe the bitch. So if there's anything, she's probably much wiser than someone like George Torres. But even if there's anything, related to Carol Baskin, gosh, I mean, I don't know how much she trusts me since she's the one taking me, and I was just, answering her calls because she was, genuinely being nice. I mean, why not? I mean, once again, I'm a politician. If I can work with the other side of the aisle, I'm going to do it.
You want to talk about narcissists, though. I mean,
no,
because
sure.
I started on the Don Lewis case. Like, I got to see some of that. She is another level.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like I said, I guess I'm just a fucking mark for the narcissist, man. I don't know, but I'm not in contact with her anymore. I called her out publicly for taping our conversations when she was pretending to just be there as someone who lost someone and. So now that I realize that, anytime I talk to her or anytime she talks to me, regarding, coping and, just, the kind of stuff she does, just, how are you doing? How are you holding up? How's your treatments going? I don't even want to talk to her anymore because now, my eyes are open to the fucking narcissist, and I just know Joe's. I'm sure those comments got back to Joe somehow, and I don't want him to think that I'm on Team Carol or anything.
I mean, he has 24 hours a day to worry, and again, you've said it. I'm going to repeat it. The truth. I believe the truth will set him free. It's just finding it. And getting enough actual. Because either his attorneys didn't do a good enough job exposing the truth or expressing the truth, or the truth was built on this scheme of fraud that has never really been revealed, or both. It's more than likely both in a way.
Both.
And then you add in Tiger King's kind of depiction of all this and what they were doing behind the scenes, and it's pretty crazy.
Do we have any idea on this next project? I'm assuming what they're calling season 2. I'm fucking in it, and I don't even have a clue what's going on or if it's called season 2. But just a heads up, I'm afraid the direction they're going with this is going to be very dark for Joe.
Oh, it's going to be very dark for everybody. Don Lewis had some shady shit going on in Costa Rica, and they've got 2 full-time employees digging in Costa Rica.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, underage. It's nobody's happy about how they really appeared in Tiger King. I think you were one of the best. You're pretty straightforward. But
sure.
but it's going to get real dark in TK2, and then even the Team Tiger joke of them going around and wrapped airplanes and all is not going to be a good look. But
yeah.
But I'm told it's still a couple of months away. They're still trying to either find Don Lewis, good luck with that, or Joe, get an update on Joe, good luck with that. And either one, there's more than 2 months, 3 months of work to do. But I suspect they'll eventually set it up for TK3.
Really?
They're going to milk that cow as long as it's mooing.
Yeah, I've noticed an uptick, and I started getting active on Instagram, and I realized, most people that follow me, that they do support Joe. I have very few followers that are not Team Joe. So I've got pictures of him on the campaign trail on my personal phone I have, and I'm going to start posting those every day, But what I've noticed is there's a big uptick in following. I don't know if it's the 1-year anniversary or what, but there's starting to be an uptick in interest again. So now is definitely time to get that out there. And
yep.
Okay. Well, I just wish that Team Tiger. I just can't tell you how mad I am. It's not just because they're trying to snoop on me and pay people for dirt on me, but because they ruined chance of freedom, you know.
Well, it's not ruined yet. I got, the pardon thing was kind of half cocked and half baked, but the real work starts now.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you've got an intelligent and competent lawyer. That makes me feel good.
Thank you, my friend. And I'll be in touch.
Yeah, and give them my best. Let them know that we've spoken, and I'm with that. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.